Welcome back to another show. This is the Hogs, Hops, and Hope podcast. I'm here with Mike and Joe. This is where you're going to get hot takes, cold brews, and what's the? I can't even remember our tagline.
Zero credentials.
No credentials. So I'm an idiot. Whatever. See, this is why we do a podcast together, because we share our brain cells sometimes. So what's everybody drinking tonight? Did we change things up again? What do we got?
Yeah, I found an Oktoberfest hiding in the back of the fridge.
Okay,
So
that's
I'm
probably
having
left
an
over.
Oktoberfest. Yeah, absolutely. This is from the Yeehaw Beer Brewing Company in Johnson City, Tennessee.
Okay, what you got,
It's
Mike?
delicious.
I got a Right Proper Brewing IPA. It's another Washington, D.C. brewery.
Okay, I got this is from Paperback Brewery. I can't even get the picture right. It's an IPA. It's a Tucked In by Strangers, West Coast style India Pale Ale IPA. So another brewery right here in Glendale, California. I bought it because the can looked cool. The beer is fine, but the can is cooler than the beer. So we'll see how that goes tonight. So the big news today, it is Wednesday, the 14th. It is 10:20 on the East Coast. The NFL released the entire 2025 schedule today, just a few hours ago. Bits and pieces of it had been not leaked, had been released. People say leaked, but the NFL did it on purpose, so it's not a leak. They released certain games throughout the week leading up to today. They would release games at the first game of the year. We know that the Lions and the Cowboys are always playing on Thanksgiving. I think they released one of the Christmas games early. They released the Washington. Washington is going to España to play Miami in Madrid, so they released that game early, types of thing. But today, the entire schedule was released, and so we're going to talk about. Unfortunately, we did not do mock schedules. I wish we had. Maybe we'll be on the ball next year and we'll do some mock scheduling, because I think that would be a great way to follow up a mock draft. But we'll talk about the schedule. We already knew who Washington was going to play. We knew every team they were going to play. We just didn't know when or where. Well, we knew where. We didn't know when they were going to play each team. So I guess we'll just jump right into it. So the first game, kickoff for Washington, is going to be September 7th, Sunday, September 7th, against the New York Giants. 1:00 game. Nothing better than starting the season off with a division rival.
Yeah.
New York, I guess, has been they got their whole quarterback situation is, well, I don't know that it's in flux anymore, but they moved on from Daniel Jones. But they do have Saquon Barkley, who ran for, I think, 7,000 yards against Washington last year alone. So I guess we'll find out where we are in the division right off the bat. You guys got any opinions or thoughts on that? You think it's a good way to start off in the division?
I mean, I like starting off within the division. Yeah.
It'll be fun. It's the Cowboys and Eagles are facing off the same week, so the division will start to already, look like something after the first week.
The Eagles and the Cowboys have the league's opening kickoff or opening game on the Thursday prior to this, whatever day that is. That would be the 4th, I think. So that'll kick off for the league. That'll be the first game, and then Washington will play the Giants. So in theory, unless there's a couple of ties, you're going to start off in the division. There'll be two teams that are 1-0 and two teams 0-1, and it's all within the division. So that's going to give two teams, I guess, a leg up to start the season right off the bat. It is at home. I like starting the season off at home. It's a crowd. It's not the new stadium yet. Obviously, we've still got a couple years for that, but the crowd has been coming back in Washington, and so I think that'll be a good way to start. And yeah, not too tough of a game, but not an easy game because it is a division game.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, for me, it's kind of the perfect game to start with. At home, division rival, and
Yeah.
possibly the easiest of the three division rivals.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I'll buy that.
Maybe not, but definitely based on last year, it is.
Right. Well, yes. Well, that's all we have to go on, right? I mean, we could go back and rehash all of our division rival off-season moves and their drafts and things like that, and we could talk about things that we actually have zero idea about, as opposed to just the stuff that we know 25% about, like we normally do. But no, I think division game at home, I think that's a great way to start. Like I said, I'd rather start at home than on the road. To me, the downside is then 4 days later, Washington plays on Thursday on the road against the Green Bay Packers. So short week on the road. That's a primetime game, and that is going to be on Amazon Prime. So I don't like a 4-day turnaround. I hate Thursday games, plain and simple. And going on the road right after, almost immediately on a short week I don't think that's ideal. I mean, I guess better beginning of the season than the end of the season, but I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah.
Well, they talk about it like you get a mini bye week after it too, because then it's 10 days before the next game.
Yeah, but I think that's more important maybe later in the season to have more time because you're more injuries in theory. I mean, you're battered and bruised throughout the season.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe in that sense, a shorter week at the beginning of the season is better. I'm not a fan of Thursday games to begin with. It doesn't matter who's playing or when it is or anything like that, other than Thanksgiving games. I'm not a fan of Thursday night games, but I know Washington fans are happy because it is a primetime game. It is a national game, at least for those that subscribe to Amazon Prime. If you don't subscribe to Amazon Prime, then it's not a game at all, unless you're in the DC area and can listen to it on the radio. So I guess I need to come up with a new email address to sign up for a temporary free Amazon account so I can watch the game.
At least you only have to do that once this year, right?
Yes, that's my understanding so far. Yes.
Well, no, I guess
actually, a broad overview of our schedule this year is kind of neat. Like we have 8 standalone games that we are not, from a broadcast standpoint, we're not competing with anyone.
Well, we could have more than that actually.
Well, yeah, towards the end of the season, we have the one.
Well, I mean, yeah, okay. So let's switch gears, and rather than going week by week, let's talk about that because this is one of the things that I did actually want to address. So when you look at the schedule as a whole, so we talked about week 2 is on Thursday night, so that's on Prime. So however you want to look at that, it's a prime time. It's what the league calls a prime time game.
Right.
All right. So there's no other games on at that time. And then when you follow that up, then on week 6, they have a Monday night game against Chicago. So it's the rematch of the Hail Mary game, all that fun stuff. That'll be a wonderful storyline. I know the NFL thinks, oh, we'll just lightning in a bottle. We'll have another Hail Mary game. So that's Monday night. That's a Monday night game. So again, there's a national game. The following week 7, is a game at Dallas. And that is a late game. So a 4:25 on the East Coast. And with a 4:25 start, that means that's the only game. That's the game that Fox is going to show. It's on Fox. That's the only game Fox is going to show. That's a national game. So
yeah.
So that's another national game. So the prime game is a national game. The Monday night games are a national game. I believe that Sunday game, because that is on a Sunday against Dallas, will be a national game. And then the following week, on Monday the 27th, now I got another Monday night game, and that's that's on the road at Kansas City. So again, there's another national game. The week after that, week 9, on November 2nd, the Seahawks come to Washington. That's a Sunday night game. That's a national game. So right there, there's basically three national games in a row. And then even after that, November 9th, week 10, they host the Detroit Lions. And that's on Fox at 4:25, which again, I'm going to guess is probably going to be a national game. I don't know what other games are scheduled that week because I didn't look at anybody else's schedule. I only focused on Washington's schedule. But if Washington versus Detroit, a rematch of the NFC Championship game, to me, that's a national game. So there's another national game. The following week, the 16th, is when they're in España playing the Dolphins on the NFL Network. Again, another national game. So in theory, at that point, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 6 national games in a row. They have a bye week, week 13. They host Denver. That's a Sunday night game. There's another national. That's 7 national games in a row. And then they have a week 17 is on Christmas. They play the Cowboys. They host the Cowboys. That's on Netflix. Another national game. So that's 8. And then the 2 games against the Eagles, one is on Fox. The other is yet to be determined. And I have a feeling that at least one of those could be a national game because that late in the season, that could be possibly be deciding a division winner. It could be involved in seeding for the conference. So we're looking at 10 national games.
The Eagles game on the 20th is actually a Saturday.
Oh, there you go. So
that might be another national game. But
that is a national game. Yes, you're correct. So thank you.
So I think this just goes to how exciting they were to watch last year. Hopefully we can do it again, right? I mean, that's
the big thing. All this could mean nothing at the end of this season.
Absolutely. But it's like we have 8 games that are scheduled they're national games that are like there's no other games on. It's the only football game to watch. It's us and whoever. And it's like, that's really cool. Assuming, we don't suck.
Well, so in there, that's where we come back to something that I've talked about in the past. Is Washington benefited from a 4th place schedule last year, right? They because they had finished last in their division. So this year, and this is based off of last year's records. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Is Washington has the 8th strongest schedule, or so the strength of schedule hardest. Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Yep.
I knew it was something that ended in EST. So they have the 8th hardest schedule based on last year's records, and so can they replicate it? That's a good question. I mean, we've talked about this before. Can they convert as many 4th downs as they did last year? All that type of thing. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's exciting. This is a big thing that the fan base has been talking about online that I saw was they're excited because this shows that the team is relevant. We've talked about this in other ways with the draft coming to Washington and things like that. So I get that. And so for the fans, great. I'm happy for you. I mean, wonderful. Enjoy. Salute. I don't know. You guys got any thoughts on that? Any part of what I just rambled on about for a few minutes?
No, yeah, I totally agree. What's really interesting, there's only, I think right now, 5 games that are scheduled for 1 p.m. Like the boring 1 o'clock time zone, your standard one where, last year we probably had 15 of our 17 games were 1 o'clock games.
There's 6, but one of them is the Christmas game against that's on Netflix.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean it's cool. And like if you're not in the local market, there's a good chance you're going to see the games because, like you said, at the 4 o'clock slot, there's only 2 or 3 games usually.
Right.
And depending on your local market, depends on which one you actually get to see, but there's a good chance that those are the national games, like you said. and so it gives you the best chance to actually to be able to watch them if you're not local.
Right. And so side note on
Sunday
that,
ticket.
side note for that, if you've never checked out, if you're not in the DC market, look at the website 506sports.com. On Wednesdays, I think it is, every week during the season, they will post the map of where every game is being broadcast that week, along with announcers for each game. So you can see, you can plan ahead if you don't have Sunday ticket and you need to get to a bar to watch that game. Like looking at this, this is one of the things I was looking at. I'm like, okay, so the Green Bay game is on Prime, so I'm going to have to subscribe to Prime to watch that, whatever.
Yep.
They play the Chargers, so I know the Chargers game will be on local TV here, so I'm not worried about that game. That's great for me. That's one less thing I have to worry about. The Monday night games we've talked about, those are on ESPN. So again, as long as you have some sort of streaming service or you sign up for
They might be on ABC also, or is that only in the local network?
That's only the local.
Okay.
So like the first game is against Chicago on Monday night, so that'll be on ABC in Washington and Chicago only. For the rest of the country, it's on ESPN.
Okay.
And then same thing with the NFL Network. I have YouTube TV, which includes NFL Network, so I'll get that game without issue. And then the Netflix, I don't have Netflix, so I'm going to have to resubscribe to Netflix. But the way I looked at it, there's 10 games for me that will be either on Netflix or Amazon, ESPN, or local TV for me in LA, which means I'm going to subscribe to Sunday Ticket and pay a couple $100 to watch 7 games that I don't believe would otherwise be on TV. So I'm a little bummed about that. You know, it's one thing if I got to pay a couple $100 to watch all the games, which is kind of the way it's been the last couple of years, because nothing's been on national TV.
Mm-hmm.
What
you know?
So I was going to ask you, Rob.
Yeah.
You know, obviously you're out west, 3-hour time difference, so you're used to watching football at 10 o'clock in the morning frequently. So to Joe's point, all these late games, how do you feel about that? Because you got a bunch of even the 4:30 starts or 1:30 for you.
Yeah. So I do have some issue with this. So for the Sunday games, let's start there. The Sunday late games, as it were. Yeah, it's 1 o'clock or 1:30 for me, which is great. So if I choose to sleep in, if I want to do that, or if I want to go for a late morning hike or something and get that before the game, great. I can run some errands. It's just like growing up. I had my routine growing up in the DC area. When the game started at 1, I could do all my things. I knew, I'd make some dip. I made my run to 7-Eleven at 12:30 so I could be back for a 1 o'clock start. I had it all down pat. Out here now, if I go out Saturday night for some reason, then I got to make sure that I set an alarm to get up to watch football. The Thursday night games, the Monday night games, they're starting. I'm at work.
That's true.
Yeah.
I hate some people say, oh, it's great. You don't have to stay up till 11 o'clock or midnight watching the game. But I'm at work. And, thankfully, I work someplace and I work for somebody who allows me to have the games on and will actually tell me to go home and watch the game. But I'm at work. And so, it's the same thing watching, all of my teams are back east, whether it's the NFL, NHL, MLB, whatever, I'm watching Stanley Cup playoffs at my desk.
So only have one more game for that, most likely. So
yeah, I understand that, but 82 games on the season or whatever. I mean, I realize they're not all during the week, but so that's one of the reasons I hate the Thursday night games. Also because it's totally against player safety, which the league says they're all for, which is total crap. But so I don't like that. Like a 4:20 start, 4:25 start, great. Sunday night game, great, because the Sunday night game I actually like, because that comes on I think at 5:30 for me, so I can watch the game and have dinner during halftime and still watch some TV after the game if I want, unless they lose, in which case I probably just want to go to bed. You know, and then I look at this game in España, and it starts at 9:30 East time, East Coast time.
I was about to bring that up.
That one. Yeah.
That's a rough one.
I'm to say I'm not happy about that. Like, I'm not a fan of my team playing overseas. If Jacksonville or the Jets or all these teams that play games every single year, the Jets are playing, I think it's the Jets are playing back-to-back games overseas in 2 different cities this year for the first time ever.
Someone is. I don't think it's the Jets.
I think it's Minnesota, maybe.
Is it Minnesota?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, they're doing like London.
Oh, Vikings. Yes, the Vikings. You're correct. Okay, great. For Minnesota, if you're into that, I'm happy for you. If it's my team, screw that. I hate that. I hate every aspect of that. I don't care about the publicity. I don't care about that because I don't benefit from that. And honestly, I don't think the team benefits from that. They may sell some merchandise or whatever. I don't think the team benefits from that. So, no, I'm not happy about that at all. Just a 6:30 game, great, wonderful. I'm so freaking excited. You know, maybe one of you guys is going to have a guest that weekend. I don't know, but but the other option is, and I don't have the email. I got an email from the team because the team loves me. You could have, well, it's too late now. You can get on the waiting list. You could have signed up for the package to go to España for the game as long as you would put down a $500 deposit. And that deposit was going to be towards your, I think, towards your plane ticket, your accommodations, ticket to the game, and some sort of functions. I didn't get all the details about it. All I saw was that it was from the team and it was a $500 deposit. And as of right now, they are all sold out. I don't know how many
that would have been a hell of a trip. Do you know what the final cost was if the deposit was 500?
It didn't say. It didn't say.
That would be so cool to do, but also, pricey, I'm sure.
I don't know about going overseas to watch a game. It's bad enough I can't even go to bars here and watch with fans because they're all a bunch of rubes. I don't want to go to some place where they're not necessarily NFL fans and don't know the game. That's just me. So
I think they know the game. I feel like they know.
Yes, there are some educated fans there, I'm sure. But I think it's also I think it's a lot of people go for the novelty.
Oh, totally, yeah.
So yeah. So to
I don't hate the international games like you do. The timing, I don't know why they have to do it even that early. Just make it a night game over there, so it's later here.
Well, exactly. Like, so Madrid, which is where the game is going to be, I don't know how many time zones there are in España, is 6 hours ahead of DC. So why can't the game be at 8 o'clock at night?
Right.
There, which if it's 8 o'clock there, or even do 7 o'clock, and then it's a 1 o'clock start in Washington, just like we've experienced for all of our lives. But the majority of Washington games have always been at 1 o'clock.
But that's why they don't want to compete with the 1 o'clock games.
I understand. I get that.
But still, you could make it I don't know, even an 11 o'clock start here. I don't know. I just feel like they could shift it a little bit later. I know that doesn't do much for you, but 8 a.m. would be better than 6 a.m.
I mean, maybe I should just go to Hawaii for the first time that weekend, and then the game's at 3:30, and I can just come back from the club and start watching the game.
There you go.
Problem solved. You guys want to go to Hawaii?
I think the international games are fun. I remember watching one international game, and I guess it was the one that they tied. And I think Mike and we were together. We went to the bar. I knew the bartender, the owner, and I got him to open up the bar just for me to come hang out and watch football.
That's right.
So like it made it something different. It was fun. It was an experience, So I kind of like them. in that regard, but I totally understand what you're saying, and you're not wrong. But
I don't know what the experience is. Okay, if I went to the game, like let's say the three of us went overseas to catch a game, and we were going to see a Washington game, not just to go see Minnesota play whoever Minnesota's playing.
Right.
But if we went to Madrid to watch the game, yes, you're absolutely right. That would be an experience. I think it would be cool to see Madrid and do the sightseeing, make a whole week out of it, whatever it is, like not just going for a long weekend or something, but take the whole week, do some sightseeing, do some hiking, whatever, that type of thing. You guys probably wouldn't do hiking, but do that, experience the culture a little bit, the food, and see it. Look, it's always fun to see the team live. Yes, I'm not going to dispute that. So yes, in that aspect, it would be a wonderful experience. Getting up at 6:30 in the morning to watch my team play just another game is not an experience to me. And I realize I'm the outlier because I'm in LA, and I get that.
You just need to make it an experience.
What's the experience?
I don't know.
What am I supposed to do?
Mimosas during the game instead of beer? I don't know.
I mean,
no. Look, you have the 6:30 versus 9:30 start. Yeah. That's a huge difference to me. Like, I mean, yeah, 9:30 I can deal with watching the game starting at 9:30, but yeah, I think for you that does suck. Honestly, it's ridiculous.
I mean, I'm used to getting up for college football on Saturdays. My games start at 9 a.m. So forget watching pregame anything. The games are at 9 o'clock. Yeah. So I'm used to that. I mean, it took a little time to get used to that, but no more football season. I don't get to sleep in. None of this sleeping in till 10 or 11 really, because I got to get up before the game. Now, thankfully, I'm at the point in my life where I don't sleep in all that much to begin with, but there's other fans out here who are much younger than I am that are not used to getting up at 9 o'clock to watch football on a weekend. Look, I've adjusted fine to being out here for Saturday games and Sunday games. I guess Sunday games since we're focusing on the NFL, and having games start at 10 o'clock. That's fine. I've gotten used to that. That I'm perfectly fine with that. It actually, for the most part, it's actually worked out better than the 1 o'clock games. Being on the East Coast and having 1 o'clock games. So I don't mind that so much. But yes, the 6:30 is a bit much. And I know it's just one game, and we're talking about fans that are outside of the Washington, D.C. area. But there are a lot of fans that are outside of the Washington, D.C. area that are fans of the team. And I know, like, the NFL, I'm not going to say it, I am going to say it. The NFL doesn't care about the fans. They care about the money. So they're all about what they can sell. And by putting the games overseas, they're going to make money because they're raising awareness, for lack of a better word. And they're good. They're going to sell all these tickets, and they're going to sell a bunch of merchandise and all this stuff. And, I could go over there with all my extra RG3 jerseys, including the one that I'm wearing right now, and sell them for a lot of money because they say Redskins on them or something, and they'd want to buy them because they want the merchandise, so the NFL wouldn't like that if I sold merchandise, resold.
I will slightly disagree with you, though. I do think the NFL cares about the fans a little bit, because part of this whole international thing is to create more fans. Now, that's to create more fans, to create more money, to get more people watching. So it still comes back to the money, but they care about getting more fans. No, I think that's a big part of this international, is to try to get international fans. And
yes. Oh, you're right.
So
you're
they care about the
right.
new fans. It's like cell phone companies. When you're with your cell phone company, you don't get any of the deals. They don't give a shit about you. But they're out there trying to get new people to come in. That's what the NFL is doing. And yes, I just compared the NFL to, I don't know, AT&T and Verizon,
which is perfectly fine. No, I get it. Look, I know I'm one person, and I'm an older fan, so I can't. I matter even less. Like they want the younger fans because they want to. They're not going to cater to fans that are over the age of 40 because you don't have as many years of viewership or fandom left
But
as
you have,
someone who is 15 to 20.
yeah, but typically over 40 has more disposable income, so they still
Yeah,
should be targeting.
typically, except for those of us that live in LA and work in the entertainment industry right now, who have no money, disposable income to do anything.
That's why I
That
said
doesn't matter what age you are. Let's be realistic here.
I mean, I've already started to try and figure out, I got till, the beginning of October. So we're in May, June, July, August, September. I got 4 months basically to try and come up with money so I can buy a ticket to go to the game here in LA when they play the Chargers.
I was going to ask if you were going to try to get to that game.
Yeah, that is the plan right now. I mean, when Washington came out a couple years ago, in the same season, they played the Chargers and the Rams. They played the Chargers at what was at then called the Home Depot Center. I don't know what it's called anymore. It's a soccer stadium. Seats like 31,000 or something like that. I think we talked about this on a previous podcast. But and then the Rams game at the time was at the LA Coliseum. So I actually got to check something off my bucket list by going to an event at the LA Coliseum, which was really, really cool. But I got to see. I went to two. I mean, they were Redskins. I went to two Redskins games in one season. I can't remember the last time I did that. And it was great, and I had fun. And so yeah, we want to go again and go to the game, and we're trying to figure it out. How we can pull that off, and it's only one game, sure. But I mean, it's great. I got Redskins socks, I got Redskins shoes, I got the shirts. I mean, I'm ready to go. I got a flag. What the whole 9 yards, tailgate, watch all this stuff. But I gotta figure out how to pay for it.
At least you don't have to buy any merchandise for it.
Right. Okay. So I saved some money there.
There you go.
But parking and the tailgating aspect of it, yeah, that adds to it. But well, I don't know if you could tailgate at SoFi Stadium. I think they have some restrictions there. This is LA, so they have restrictions on everything. Yeah, so that's what I'm looking at. I mean, look, and I guess one thing we haven't discussed in regards to the schedule, which I think is important, only because fans always of every team make a big deal out of this. So I'm not going to give any commentary. I want to ask your opinions on this. The bye week, Washington's bye week is week 12.
Mm-hmm.
This is after the trip overseas. They get a bye week leading into a Sunday night game against the Broncos. How do we feel about the bye week following the international game and where it is in the schedule? Joe, we'll go to you first.
Sure. I think I kind of like it towards the end of the season.
Okay.
It's 6 weeks, 6 games left, and we'll be, we should know where we're sitting in the standings and what we need to do and where we need to be to end up in the playoffs. And okay. It seems like it feels like it's a good time to be able to rest, recuperate, and recover, and get ready for that last push to get into the playoffs. So I like the later one, but I'm not the player, so what the hell do I know?
Well, let me ask you this before we go to Mike, Joe. Do you forget the fact that there's an international game this year before the break? Do you prefer the bye week coming earlier in the season or later in the season, just on average?
I think I like it better towards the end of the season. I think last year we were the last week of bye week games.
Yep.
I think the last 2 years, actually, I think I saw that week 14, which is the last week or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I like it better. I think you get to rest and get ready for the playoffs.
Okay. Mike,
I
what you
think if
got?
it's too early, you
Oh.
don't have enough time to recover, and then it's, it makes for a very long season as you go into the playoffs.
Okay, Mike, what do you got?
So I like where this is. I do like it coming out of the international game. I think I like that they have that break coming out of that. And then, like Joe said, heading into those, last 6 games, 4 of which are, the last 4 could be, they're all division.
Well, yeah, they're divisional games. Yeah.
Divisional games could be super meaningful. So I do like that. As far as what would I say? Normal, like, I don't think I have a preference on whether it's earlier or later. Only that I could see, I would probably lean towards earlier, get a break in there earlier. But then I could also, looking at this schedule, be like, I'd love for them. I mean, if it was week 14 this year, they had their bye week and then came out at those 4 divisional games, I wouldn't hate that either. So it probably depends on what the end of season schedule looks like, or I guess the whole schedule, really.
Right. So the reason I ask that is because every year it seems fans are never happy where the bye week is. If you give them a bye week late in the season, like we've had week 14, then that's too late. They want it earlier. They want it week 10. But if you give it a week 10, then they're like, oh, why can't we have it later? So like Joe was saying, so we can recover and be ready for that last push. So fans are never happy when the bye week is. I like the fact that it's after the international game. I think that is probably the most important aspect of this schedule because of the travel and the time change, all that, the jet lag, all that stuff. Now you're going to have plenty of time to readjust to being back in the States, and then you have a home game on top of that. It's not like they're even going to España, coming back for a week, and then going to San Diego after that. So they hopefully that will screw them up internally. I guess if you've traveled overseas or even just traveling across the country, like some jet lag affects some people really, really bad. Some not so much. So I'm happy that it's after the international game. I'm like Joe. I prefer a late bye. I don't care what the schedule is. I just prefer the late bye because I want to be rested up for those last couple of games. So let's wrap this up on the last part of the schedule.
One more thing.
Yeah.
Just not to steal your get off my lawn moment, but there was a time when there was no bye week. They used to play just 16 straight games. So that's where I'm kind of like this. Any controversy around bye weeks, like whatever.
Well, yeah. So and I was talking with someone about this today. Because some people will complain because some people just have to complain about anything. Is teams benefit from having a late bye. Some teams benefit from having an early bye. Oh, you have a bye before you play us, so that benefits you before you play us, and all that stuff. Like it's never good enough. Real quick, this will never ever happen. But right now it's 17 games over an 18-week season. What if they just did a bye week on week 9 or week 10 for everyone?
Yeah.
Well, that probably won't happen, but they are talking about adding another game
well, that's going to happen. They are going to go to 18 games.
And if they do that, they may add a second bye week in.
Right.
And then actually make the season 2 weeks longer.
Yeah.
And then.
Well, it won't necessarily be 2 weeks longer because they'll take away one of the preseason games. And so
that's right.
2 preseason games. They'll just start it earlier. The season will start a week earlier than it does right now. Or 2 weeks if they add a second bye week.
Not to belabor the bye week conversation because it's not that big a deal. And we don't want to turn it into our next kicker situation. But I'll say this, I can make the other argument. If you're on a hot streak and you've got momentum going into a bye week, it can have a negative effect. So, that's why I just don't care about the bye week thing. It is what it is.
All right. Okay. So then the last thing we'll talk about then in regards
to. I got to add this to the bye week. Sorry, I can't let this go. The bye week started in 1960, and the 16-week game started in the 1970s, like 78, I think it was. So the bye week has been around a long time.
Wait, what?
The first bye week in the NFL appeared in the 1960 season, and we switched over to the 16-week season in 1978.
Okay. And then tell me, in 1978, 1979, 80, 81, 82, 83, and so on, how many bye weeks were there through, say, 2000?
I would assume 101, right?
You would be wrong. There were none. You should listen to your brother.
All right.
The bye week came into play when they went to 17 games. Or they went to a 17-week. They went to 17 weeks with a 16-game schedule, so they could stretch it out a week.
Yeah.
And they will go to two bye. When they do eventually go to an 18-game regular season, they will have 2 bye weeks. Like, just pull up like the 1984 season.
So I mean, I've got here. It was 1990 is when it came back. It was removed in 66. So would you say
Okay.
started in 60? They took it out in 66. Then in 90, they expanded to 17 game and added the bye week back.
Okay, so they didn't add it until they went to 17. A 17-week season, not a 17-game season.
17-week, yeah. Sorry.
Yes.
I know I said that wrong, but yeah. So it was 1990 that it was added back, though.
Okay. So there hasn't always been a bye week.
The reason they did that was so more games could be televised. So money.
Yes, more weeks of televising games. Yes. In other words, money. Okay. So
then you both are wrong. It was 1990. It was still the 16-game season, and there was a bye week added.
No, but what you were saying is that there's always been.
Well, I had the dates wrong, but they still had a bye week in 1990 and so on.
Yes, and that's what I said is when they went to a 17-week season, they added a bye week, which is why I said if you went back to the 1970s,
all right. I'm thinking 17-game season.
Yeah. No, I did say that. I meant, I said that wrong. I caused that confusion.
Yeah, don't listen to your brother. Okay, so the bye week is now in the same realm as kicker. So if you bring it up, you'll be punished. So the last thing, and this is something legit I want to bring up. I do want to talk about with the schedule, and that is we said how wonderful it was to start the season off with the divisional game. We're playing the Giants. That's probably the best game we could hope for to start it, since I don't want to play the Eagles first week. I don't even want to play the Cowboys the first week type of thing. So let's play the Giants. I think that's a wonderful game to start the season off with. They end the season, the last 4 games, at the Giants, at home against Philly, at home against Dallas, and on the road against Philly. 4 divisional games, 4 straight weeks. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen leading up to that. In the first 13 games leading up to that. How do we feel about ending the season if the last 4 games are division games, with 2 of them against Philly, and then even ending the season on the road? I know it's benefit to start the season at home, but we're going to end the season in Philly. How do we feel about the 4 divisional games to finish the season?
Go ahead, Mike.
I know how I feel. I know what my answer is, but let's start with you this time, Rob. What do you think?
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I think if you're behind in the standings, it's a wonderful way to catch the teams in your division to win the division title. Yes. But it also means you could potentially have 4 intense games that you have to be uber focused on, and those 4 games could potentially really decide your season. And look, I get it. There's 17 games. Every week is important. I'm not trying to diminish that. And I'm the one who's previously said that the divisional games don't mean anything more than the others, other than when you're trying to catch the team in front of you. So I don't like that, because if I was a Kool-Aid drinking fan, I'd say Washington's going to be in first place in the division going into those 4 games to begin with. And I don't want to give those other teams a reason to amp up and play a bigger, think of it as a bigger game, trying to beat the division leaders to catch us. So, I don't like it. Especially I don't like playing Philly twice in the last 3 weeks. That's probably my biggest knock on it. Yeah. Like, you give me 4 divisional games, you're going to have to play a team twice in that if you're doing just a division. But playing Philly twice in 3 weeks at the end of the season, no, I'm not a fan of that at all. And I think that's bad for Washington.
They did it to us last year too. I think it was Philly again, where we played them, 2 out of 3 weeks for the end of the season. And I'm with you. I don't want to face the same opponent with only a 1 week break in between. They should have a rule that they set up at least 2 or 3 weeks in between. And you're right, and I agree with you. Like, it's kind of cool having the last 3 games be the divisional games, and us ending on an away game. That's luck of the draw. That's half the NFL is going to be playing away games on the last game of the season. So that's not a big deal.
Sure. I just look. What's my perfect situation? You open the season at home, you close the season at home. I don't care what happens in the middle of the season, but ideally I would like to open and close the season at home. I know that's not realistic. That's just what I would like.
I guess if you're Super Bowl winners, it's realistic though.
There you go. Well, that's what you get for winning the Super Bowl.
They're doing it. But I don't like us playing the Eagles 3 weeks, twice.
Okay. I think I'm gonna, and this is why I wanted you both to say go first, because I thought I was gonna disagree strongly, but I don't think I did. I don't think I'm actually that far off from you, Joe.
So let me just hold on one sec, Mike, because I want to address something that Joe brought up. So last year, week 11 at Philly, week 12 Dallas at home, week 13 Tennessee at home, week 14 was the bye week, 15 at New Orleans, 16 at home against Philly, 17 at home against Atlanta, 18 last game of the season on the road in Dallas. So that was last year. So we didn't finish with the same bunch of divisional games. They did finish on the road, yes, but not the same bunch of divisional games.
And I felt like that was too close together last year, and that was still 3 or 4 weeks apart between the Eagle games.
Between the Eagle games, it was week 11 and week 16.
Wow. Huh? There goes my memory.
Okay. So, sorry. What do you got, Mike? Go ahead. Sorry.
Here's my thing. I like closing out the season with divisional games. I do agree. Look, if it was my perfect world, it wouldn't be all 4. It would be 3. We'd play all 3 of them last 3 games of the season. The other 3 games would be earlier in the season. There's something that makes it meaningful about it. I mean, look, either way, they can either be out of it or they could have won their division, as the Kool-Aid drinkers are going to think. Either way, these games still matter because they're divisional games. I actually, then this is why I wanted you guys to go first. I was curious what you guys would say, because when we had the conversation about, the whole playoff seeding and that thing, Rob, especially you lean towards divisions meaning something. That kind of divisional games should mean something. So I was wondering where you were going to go with that. I like the idea of playing your divisional rivals at the end of the season. I agree with you, Joe, that I don't like Philly, with twice in 3 weeks or 2 weeks, whatever.
Yeah, twice in 3 weeks.
But I wouldn't mind a schedule. If it was we played each of them once in the last 3 games, I think that would be kind of fun for, again, the games mean something. And yes, it has the potential that we're battling for the spot, but let's face it, if you go through that, and you're right, it could be terrible for the team. They could end up getting knocked out because they lose games to these guys. But then again, if they win them, they go into the playoffs on that sort of streak. It could go the other way too. So as a Kool-Aid drinker, I feel like it could work to our advantage.
Well, the streak doesn't matter who you're playing. You just want to go into the playoffs on a winning streak. So that doesn't matter whether it's divisional rivals or anybody else. They could be playing they could be playing Denver, Seattle, and Chicago for the last 3 games of the season. If we're on a win streak, you're on a win streak. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're on a win streak, but I think if you have to win those to win your division to get into the playoffs or whatever it is, I think that means more. And going into the playoffs on that, I think is meaningful.
Well, and what was it? You guys can remind me. I think it was 2020 where they had to beat Dallas in the last game, or was that 2012? And I don't mean to say that sarcastically, but it was one of those years where they had to beat Dallas in the last game to win the division and go into the playoffs. And so yes, that was exciting. That was very exciting. I think what I said previously was divisional games don't mean anything. They don't mean more when it comes to deciding the division title, because the division title is based on overall record and not divisional record.
Right.
So that was my comment previously, and I stand by that.
No, I know. Wait, when we were talking about that whole thing, you felt strongly about the divisions being important still. Because remember, we went back and forth about the different ways you could do it.
Yes, and again, I stand by that. My thing is that the divisional opponents, these games, the 6 games they play against divisional opponents, do not mean more than the other 11 games they are playing in winning your division, in that the division is based on overall record, not divisional record.
Yeah. No, I know. I get that.
So now, is it more important if you're look, we get down to, let's say we get down to those last 4 games, and we have the same identical record as Philly going into those last 4 games, right? Whatever that record is, and we're tied at the division lead with Philly.
Okay.
We have 4 games left, and I don't know what Philly's schedule is, other than they played 2 of those last 4 games against Washington, right? So, where these games become important because they're divisional games is because, let's say we split with Philly in those last 2 games, which is not an unrealistic suggestion, and we split the other 2 games that we play, that Washington plays. So let's say we beat the Giants and we lose to the Cowboys, right? So in those last 4 games, Washington goes 2-2. Philly, we just said that we're going to split with Philly, so we know they're 1-1 right there. Let's say they split their last 2 games. Where the divisional stuff comes into play is that's one of the tiebreakers, is divisional record. So that's but again,
you're getting
this divisional games. It doesn't matter when they are. It's just the tiebreaker.
I know you're getting into the technicalities of how you get in the playoff. I'm just saying,
right?
To me,
yes, I am.
4 divisional games at the end of the season could make for an exciting end of the season, good football, fun to watch. I get everything you're saying. I know you can play them whenever. I don't hate the idea. Again, I don't want to play Philly twice in 3 weeks. I would rather, that one of those games be earlier in the season. But to close out playing Eagles, Cowboys, and Giants the last 3 games, I don't hate that. I think that could make for fun football, exciting to watch.
Joe, what do you got? Chime in.
I just looked at the Eagles schedule.
Yeah.
And so they're playing the Cowboys is week 1.
Right.
And then they play they play the Giants on October 9th, and then they play them again 2 weeks later on the 26th. So they've got, kind of back-to-back games against the Giants, and then they play the Eagles, the Cowboys 2 weeks after that, or 3 weeks after that.
So what are Philly's last 4 games?
Philly's last 4 games are Raiders, Commanders, Bills, Commanders.
All right. See, so that's I mean, they don't have the intensity that.
No, their divisional games are all done. They're done by
So you're saying it'd be more fun if they had divisional games to close out their season?
Well, this kind of goes to what you were saying, Mike, and I agree with this part of it. I wouldn't have a problem necessarily finishing the season with, in whatever order, Giants, Dallas, Philly.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with that, because yes, I think that would be fun. Yeah, and I said originally my biggest issue is playing Philly twice in the last 3 weeks. I think that's stupid. And I think that's poor scheduling by the league, quite honestly. I understand if they did it on purpose, I understand why they did it. And look, there's so much that goes into making this schedule for the entire league. I understand that, but I just playing the defending Super Bowl champion twice in the last 3 weeks of the season when you could be battling to make the playoffs or win the division. I don't think is, I'll just say right. I don't want, I was going to say fair, but I don't want to use that word. I just don't think it's right.
But you're going to play them twice anyway, so does it really matter when in that regard? But
Well, some would say yes, it absolutely does matter.
Okay.
But I do understand it from the NFL standpoint that it's a rematch of the NFC Championship game.
Right. So it should probably happen earlier in the season. At least once.
Well, I mean, it would suck if we have to play them 3 times in 5 weeks or whatever it would end up being.
Well, okay, and there's another part of it right there. Joe, you just hit the nail on the head.
But here's the other thing. By week 18, Philly's probably clinched already. They've got their spot locked down. Who knows who we're playing? We may beat the shit out of them because they got all their third string guys in.
So you're saying Washington's not going to win the division?
Yes. Sorry. Did I somehow give the impression that I thought they were going to win the division?
Well, I don't know. We never talked about it. I just had to throw that out.
Isn't that what we're supposed to do when the schedule comes out? We're supposed to not only do mock schedules but mock record at the end of the season too. What we're going to end up with?
Look, I did this. So yes, because there are people who do that.
I know they do.
They look right now. If they're not already done, my boy JP Finley and the big guy Mitch Tischler, in tomorrow's podcast or the next day's podcast, they will go through this entire schedule and they will say week 1 against the Giants at home, that is a win. Week 2 on the road against the Packers are still developing, that's a win. Raiders at home, that's a win. Week 4 against Atlanta, against Michael Penix Jr., that's a win. Week 5 on the road against the Chargers, that's going to be a loss. Monday night, Chicago Bears at home, they're going to win that game. Dallas on the road, they're going to go through the whole thing and they're going to predict every single winner of every single game. And they are going to do a full analysis of that. And I don't mean to single out JP and Mitch because I like Mitch. And well, we've talked about me and JP, I think, on the show, how I feel about him.
But that was the after show.
Oh, it was the after show. Well, anyway,
yeah,
he's got bad takes. But I'll say that they're going to do that. They're going to predict the winner of each game now.
Yeah.
Before training camp, the rookies, I mean, we had rookie mini camp last week. We're not even going to bother trying to talk about that because none of us went or anything. But there are lots of people who are doing that right now, and they're saying, okay, coming out of this, the same way that we talked about, hey, it's nice to be able to play Denver.
You just went halfway through the season.
Yeah.
You want to finish it off?
Well, I was doing JP. I was doing what JP would say. I'm not saying
I think
what
you got us at about 14-3 by the end of the way you were talking.
Well, but that's what I was saying. Like, well, look, if you really wanted to do it, I'll do what Sonny Jurgensen used to do on the Redskins Report, and every week pick Washington to win. Even though I don't think they're going to go 17-0, I'm going to pick them every single week. I mean, that's stupid. They're really going to go into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs? I don't know.
No.
That'll probably be the game they win. They'll probably lose at home to the Bears.
I think they're going to lose to the Bears.
At the end of the day, that's why we play the games. Just, because we can talk about it all day long.
And there's the voice of reason.
That's what I'm here for.
All right. So if I can sum it up, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong. We're happy that they're playing at home against a divisional opponent in week 1, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
We like the fact that the bye week is after the international game.
Yes.
Correct.
And for the most part, we like that the fact that it's week 12. Like we're cool with that.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. And we like the fact that they're overall, we like the fact that they're playing division rivals at the end of the season, but we don't necessarily like the fact that there's 4 divisional games, or more importantly, they're playing Philly twice in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah,
Right.
I'd agree with that.
The rest of it, we really don't care about.
Not really. I like that we're having a lot of national covered games. I like that we get talked about. I like that when Sports Center and highlights are being shown or whatever, they're showing us. They're showing Jaden doing something magical and, you know, Hail Marys. And, you know, I like that we did something last year, and I hope we do something again this year.
Well, that's the key. Like it's
yeah,
doing it for one season.
Yeah, well,
it's easy. I know it's not easy, but one season is one season.
Right. Let's not RG3 it.
For a second season and so on. So yeah.
Second season, 8th hardest record, and now we do have the spotlights on us, so we can really shit the bed here, and everyone will see it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that's what's happened in the past. And I realize, you know, I don't want to dwell on it, but that's, you know, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Something, I don't know. I figured there should be a cliche there. But all right, so just to wrap it up, Giants at home, on the road to Green Bay, Raiders at home, on the road to Atlanta, on the road to LA against the Chargers, at home against Chicago, at Dallas, at Kansas City, home against the Seahawks, home against the Lions, to España against the Dolphins in week 11. Week 12 is the bye week. Week 13, at home against Denver, then on the road against Minnesota, on the road against the Giants, at home against Philly, at home against Dallas, and they finish the season on the road in Philadelphia. We've got at least 8 national games that everyone will be able to see Washington play. They'll be the focal point because they'll be the only game. And yeah, if Washington can continue what they did last year, then it's great. It builds more brand awareness, which we've talked about is important. That's wonderful. It goes along with the draft, getting the draft, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The international game is great because it builds the fan base for the league. And who knows, it could build the fan base for Washington as well, in which case more stuff will be sold. And then Harris and Johnson and the rest of them have more money to spend on salaries, or they get to pocket more money.
Or they can funnel more money into RFK, into the new RFK.
Into the new RFK, which won't be RFK, but whatever.
Right.
What are you shaking your head for, Mike? What you got?
Oh, no, it won't be RFK. I'm agreeing with you.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm just, for lack of a better term.
Right. Well, no, but that's what, I mean, that's what we should call it. It's the RFK site. I mean, that's really what it is. Okay. Anything else you guys want to throw out at this point? Anything else on the schedule?
No.
We're already talking way too long about the schedule to begin with. Anyway.
A lot of time talking about a schedule that mostly doesn't matter, but you know.
Hey, whatever. Far be it from us to talk too long about anything. But thanks everyone for watching and listening. We appreciate it. Thank you for feeding our fragile egos. Click the like button, click the subscribe button. We really appreciate it when you do. Leave a comment, even if you like. Tell us how stupid we are. Tell us how much you value our wonderful expert opinions. And then we'll be back next week for another exciting show. So thanks for tuning in. Bye.
See ya.